All right, it's time to start Photoshop assignment number 2, and here I am in Screencast-O-Matic. So I'm in Google Classroom for web design, and Photoshop assignment number 2 is creating backgrounds for your website. We started that earlier today in class, and we're going to continue tomorrow, Tuesday, and then it'll probably be Tuesday or later by the time you watch this. So creating backgrounds for your website, then we're going to move on to creating a home page with Photoshop. And so I will create a video for these 2 assignments next. But for now, creating backgrounds for your website. Right here are the directions in Google Classroom. It says that you will create a total of 5, due by the end of class, 50 points total. What is a background? It's something that's part of a picture that appears to be in the distance, or part of a scene or area of relative or inconspicuous or unimportance. And it's basically the background of your website, which means that it shouldn't jump out at you and be crazy. Gavin, still logged in. It shouldn't say, hey, look at me. It should be like pretty chill, and it's a background. So we don't want it to be too obnoxious. It can be a solid color, it can be a gradient, it can be a photograph that's been ghosted with the opacity dropped, or it can be something that you've created through Photoshop and Illustrator. So we're going to start. All 5 of your files need to follow this format. File, New, choose the Web Most Common setting, and make sure that the resolution is at 300. Now normally Internet is 72, but because we're creating something sort of artistic, we want it to be a little more high quality, so we're going to have it at 300. So that's the very first step. So here I am. I'm in Photoshop. I'm going to go to File and New. This window pulls up. And I'm going to select Web. There's several options, but we've got Web Most Common, which is 1366 by 768 pixels. And over here where it says 72 resolution, we're going to change that to 300 and say Create. So now we have this, just a plain old artboard. Before we do anything else, it's time to make sure you save it in the right place. So if you go to File and Save As, you want to put it in the Student Shared Dropbox Web Design Photoshop folder, and it's on the assignment, and there's a little sticker on the side of the computer to help you find it. But you want to change it to your last name, so mine is Van Buren, and then just the word background and the number 1, and make sure that the type is Photoshop. It's going to be a .psd. You're going to make 5 total, so that's why we're going to name this one Background 1, and click Save. And then this will come up and you just say OK. So the first thing we have to do is just make it a solid color. So I'm going to pick the paint bucket. And there's all these options in swatches. If swatches doesn't show up, you can go to Window and say swatches, and then that swatches palette should show up. I'm going to go ahead and just start with the color red. With my paint bucket tool, I'm going to paint it red. There we go. Now, the directions say to fill your canvas with color. The color will coordinate or complement photos or colors that are going to be on your website. Very dark, bright, or saturated colors are usually not the best for background colors. So we're going to soften that in number 2, but for now, I'm just going to show you some things. So we want to go to Filter, Noise, and Add Noise. Try changing the settings, and then add additional filters till you like what you see. Now, the first step then is to go up here at the very top where it says Filter, choose Noise, and choose Add Noise. And then this little window pops up where you can adjust how much, we call it noise. It's not like noise that you hear, it's visual noise. You can decide if you want it to be a little softer, which is Gaussian or uniform. Or maybe you don't want it to be multiple colors and you just want it to be monochromatic, which is mono, single colors. So this has just got red and black and white, or this is more multicolored. It's up to you, but that's it. Now, the first class we had, several people turned in 5 filters and they were different colors and they just added noise and that was it. That's a good start, but this is not good enough for your background. I want you to try a couple different things. First of all, the directions do say add additional filters until you like what you see. Now don't get frustrated. Some of the filters work better with a picture than a solid color. So if I go to filter and I choose spin blur. That adds like a cool spin. I can like pull out those things a little wider to really get a cool spin in there. That's kind of neat. I can have additional little spins by just clicking on the pin. That's kind of neat. I can make them smaller too. I can add more. I can really mess with this filter in a lot of fun ways. And that's just one filter. So if I'm done and I'm happy with it, I can say okay. And that's pretty cool. There's all kinds of filters in here. I like the oil paint one. Works pretty neat sometimes with pictures. Let's see. Let's try mosaic. We can adjust how big the squares are. Well, that just makes it like a solid blur of pink. Well, that's not very cool. I don't want that. Mosaic works better with pictures. Let's try a different filter. Distort. Let's add a little bit of a wave to it. We can adjust how many waves, how big the waves are, how tall they go, the amplitude, and I guess scale also adjusts the size as well. I can have a wrap around or repeat. So just kind of play with the settings. You don't necessarily have to know what you're doing. This is a chance for you to explore. So I like these settings. I'm going to click OK. That's pretty neat. And then this is kind of busy still. So I'm going to go ahead and make it, instead of 100% opaque, I'm going to make it like a little see-through. And that makes it a little less bright. So that works. That's one background. I can go ahead and file, save. Now remember we have to make 5. I'm going to show you a few more things that you have to do. So you want to go to New again. Always go to Web for this background assignment. Choose Web Most Common and make sure that you have 300 DPI and hit Create. So here we are. We're back to our blank canvas again. I'm going to pick a different color this time. I'm going to pick maybe like a soft green. It's a soft green. And I'm going to make it up here. I'm going to adjust the opacity right now. And that makes it a little more see-through, but it really doesn't show us anything right now. If I did a new layer and said OK, and now there's a background layer behind it. Well, that's not going to do anything. But maybe if I went to the background layer and I made it like a yellow, like a bright yellow, and I paint the background layer yellow. But, ooh, I had it so I want to make it full so it's not see-through. Let's try that again. Now I have a bright yellow with a green on top. And I can mess with the blending modes, maybe multiply. Ooh, that changes the color. Color burn, that pushes the yellow through. Maybe a lighten, screen. So all of these different ways to combine layers. So maybe if I had a pattern on one layer, exclusion, that's kind of cool. So it got rid of every color but. Alright, so anyway, here we are. We have a canvas. We have a color. Back to the assignment. It says to add noise. Well, we did that on the last one, so we could play with other filters. It also says use the Shapes tool to put additional shapes on the background. If you hold down the shape, you'll have many different choices, and add color to the shapes with the fill selection. And then another good technique is the use of brushes. You can also use brushes as a stamp that adds texture to make it abstract. So the very first one that we did was pretty cool. Some of you may have done one that had the noise filter on it. That's fine for one, but each of your 5 background files should be pretty different. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and play around with the paintbrush tool. There's the paintbrush tool. Now at the top, anytime you select a tool, you have options at the top. You can adjust the size of your brush, whether it's kind of hard or soft, sort of the edge of it. But also, if you scroll down, you'll notice that the brushes get really unique. Like that one's a leaf shaped, that one's more like a fuzzy marker. So I've got the color yellow pulled up, but I can switch to I don't know, any color I want, and just use the leaf thing as a brush to add some texture. Now these are all, I'm using the same, I'm not changing the size of my brush, it's at 134 and 100%, and I'm adding this, just clicking around. Now it's kind of sporadic, it's different, it's not even, it's not planned, but that's okay for a background, just kind of like a Hawaiian shirt or something with a little pink flamingo even. So once you have your pattern, you could maybe change the size of the brush, make it smaller or larger. This is really big. That's maybe too big. You can change the color. So you can see I switched over from a green to a different color. Now maybe I want to change it to a completely different brush and just add a little, maybe I'll use white now. Just add a little bit of scatter, a little bit of spot, or maybe I just want to paint. Ooh, that's kind of ugly. I don't think that looks as good, so I'm going to undo that. So that's good. That works for my second one. I'm going to go to Save As, and again, save it as my background, but I'm just going to change it to background 2 so that I get credit for doing a second one. Now it's time to do another one. File and New. Set it to web, change it to 300 for the resolution, make sure web most common, say create. Now, if we look at the assignment, we've done a new layer with a paint bucket, we've done one with some noise and some other filters, we did one with paintbrushes, but we haven't done one with the shapes tool, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to start by adding a new layer. So I've got 2 layers just for fun. On layer 2, I'm going to find a shape. So where are all my tools? If I just hold down, oh, here are all the shapes. I like the polygon tool, and I'm going to go ahead and make this color on top, this sort of salmony red color. And there's one. And now I can switch to a different color and do another one. Well, that didn't switch to a different color, did it? I want to switch to yellow. And I see I'm on yellow. I say okay. And maybe circle. Here's a circle. Why is it still? Okay. Over here is where I need to change my color. I was like, it's not behaving properly. There we go. So there's the yellow. And I can go back to the polygon tool. That one's kind of fun. And I don't want yellow. Maybe I want a little pink. Well, that changed that one pink. Well, that works. So every time I draw a new shape, it's been adding a new layer. So that works. So I'll go to the original layer and choose sort of a purple color now. And I can have my purple, and I can pick a different color shape. And that's sort of a rounded corner one. So I'm just going to build a bunch of different shapes. And, ooh, I don't like that one. I can use this tool to move it around. Kind of move them where I want them. And so you can see over here, if you adjust the layer, like what's on the top, it'll be on top. So this is on top, but I'm going to move the polygon up, so that's on top. Maybe I want lots of polygons the same color and the same size, so I can actually choose to duplicate the layer. And that brings up this window, and I say okay. And now I have 2, and I can move one over here. So I'm like repeating different elements, but put them in different places. So again, duplicate layer, say okay. Now I have 3 of them, and I could put another one over here. Maybe over here. I want some more pink circles, so I'm going to duplicate the layer again, say okay. And I can put this one over here, and because it's on the top, it's going to be over the rectangle. And then maybe just for fun on the back layer, I want that to be like a soft yellow. So I'm going to pick out